This event will be recorded. So welcome everyone out there in TV land. Welcome to the 3rd annual Diversify Austin Job and Resource Fair. My name is rogelio.deleon. I am the Community Relations Representative here in the Austin area for Amerigroup. And with us today, I'll have a co-host, and welcome, Jigna.
Yes. Hi, Roger. Thank you. Yes, my name is Jigna. Thank you guys so much as we celebrate National Disability Employment Awareness Month. We're so excited to have this robust panel. And I am part of the Texas Center for Disability Studies, and we are an interdisciplinary team composed of professionals at the university level, doing assistive technology, family support, health and wellness, transition, and other university programs. And I'll be talking about E4 Texas later at the end of this panel.
Yes, so we were really looking forward to have an in-person job fair this year and resource fair. And, at the last minute, when we planned these, everything took a turn, for the worse, and because of the COVID surge. So we had to go back to virtual, but, next year we really look forward for this event, for being live and in person and very social. So before we start, just wanted to do some housekeeping notes. Like I said, this event will be recorded and it will be posted on the Texas Center for Disability Studies website. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the event, and we'll open up the mics for Q&A. Also, if you do have a question, we'll have the chat feature open. As you can see, some of y'all folks have already started typing in, and so you can type in your question or comment, and we'll address those during our Q&A session. So at this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Myles Wallace, representing Peak Performers. I'll leave the floor to you, Mr. Wallace.
Well, good morning and hello, everybody. Thanks, Roger. I appreciate that introduction. My name is Myles Wallace, and I'm with Peak Performers. For those of you who are hearing about us for the first time, we are a nonprofit staffing and recruiting agency. And, unlike many other staffing and recruiting agencies out there, we are one of only a handful in the entire world that specifically seeks out individuals with disabilities and gives them priority access to whatever jobs that we have available and whatever jobs are currently whatever jobs they're currently qualified for as well. We've been in business for the last 27 years. Go ahead and go to the next slide for me, please. So many people ask me, hey, a disability consideration, how does that work? Well, for Peak Performers, we give disability priority consideration to any candidate that has a disability. And disability, that may include things that are visible and obvious about a person, such as being in a wheelchair or being blind or being deaf. But it also oftentimes includes people with invisible disabilities too. For an organization, we actually consider the full scope of the ADA, so anything physical, mental, or emotional or perceived disability that affects one or more major life functions. So, we get a lot of things that might be less obvious about a person, such as ADHD or dyslexia or PTSD, sleep apnea, depression, diabetes, hypertension. In fact, when I'm not talking to you through a pair of earpods like this, I'm usually talking to you through a pair of hearing aids. And just looking at me, you would never know it. You never realize that I myself have a qualifying disability. But at Peak Performers, our really approach and kind of the way that we go about everything is that we like to define people by what they can do as opposed to what they cannot. I'm sure that this is a message that resonates with this audience, especially if you yourself have a disability, is that too often in time you have been defined by what you cannot do as opposed to what you can. And that's really kind of what we're seeking to do. We are really seeking to help people not only find jobs, but help them find careers. So, everybody's been in that situation where they have a job, right? And a job is a job, right? You get up, you go to work, and then you come home and you go, gosh, I'm hoping that 8 a.m. comes as slow as possible tomorrow morning. Whereas what we really try to do is help propel people with disabilities into the workplace and get them a meaningful career where they can have an impact on the world and something that's going to be really complementary and suited to their unique skill set. Go ahead and go to the next slide for me. Now, many of the other questions that come up for us is, who are our clients? Who are we helping? So as a nonprofit, most of our clients are government agencies, but we are very excited to announce that we have started getting into the private sector and are very actively helping out many different companies as well as nonprofit organizations with diversifying their workforce through disability hiring. That said, right now, the majority of the jobs that we have open right now are things with the state of Texas government agency. Also, I would kind of point out too that we are doing a national push currently too. So while most of our jobs are currently in Austin, Texas, we are actually rapidly diversifying that, and we have many more jobs that are open across the state of Texas and actually the entire United States as well. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So that said, I just want to make sure that I'm kind of setting good expectations for everybody so they know what kinds of jobs we regularly have open, so that then when they're checking out our website a little bit later on today, they can go and kind of have a good expectation. And the first thing that I would point out is that with any HR organization, especially a staffing agency, this is going to change by the day, if not by the hour. So just kind of keep that in mind, keep that with a grain of salt. But the other thing that I would throw out there is that we have an unprecedented number of jobs that are open right now, especially as we're doing this push, and especially because, we are very actively hiring and our clients are very actively hiring too. Some of the most common positions that we fill are things like accountants or financial professionals. We're filling a lot of people that are administrative assistants or clerks, or sometimes even called receptionists. We're also filling a lot of purchasers. We're filling a lot of HR representatives or specialists. In fact, we're even recruiting internally for somebody that's kind of a account manager, but also looking for recruiters as well. So if that is your particular skill set, feel free to reach out to me. We're also looking for a bunch of people that have customer service in their background, and that may be doing things from working on help desk tickets in the IT environment, or even possibly working in kind of like more of a high volume call center. We also have a lot of data entry operator kinds of positions that are especially prevalent right now across the state of Texas. And then finally, we have something that's kind of a catch-all, especially with the state of Texas, and that's called program specialists. And those are basically people that have oftentimes gone up a more administrative track, and they're a little bit more specialists or like experts in a particular topic. So again, this is only a snapshot of some of the different kinds of jobs that we typically get. So I'd encourage anybody that's on the call today to go to peakperformers.org, and that's where you can find a complete list of all the jobs that we have. And the other thing that I'll tell everybody that's out there on the call today is that you can either apply for an open job that is a perfect fit for you right now, or alternatively, what you can do is you can scroll to the bottom and you can click join our talent pool. And that way we can consider you for multiple future opportunities. Because guess what? The reality of it is that when we get a brand new job that comes in, the first place that we're going to look is we're going to look at the people that we've already talked to. We're going to look at the resumes that we already have in our database, just because it's a lot easier and we already have a relationship established at that point. So definitely, I encourage anybody that might be thinking about this kind of thing to submit their resume online at peakperformers.org. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And this is kind of where you can kind of find that. So if you click on Browse Jobs, go ahead and click the next slide for me here. It'll pull up a list, and that's where you can kind of see a link to join our talent pool. So one other kind of thing that I'd finally throw out there for people that might be a little bit more new to Peak Performers, not familiar with kind of how we do, is just talking very, very briefly about our process and kind of how we do it. So as I mentioned, 75 to 80% of all of our workforce has a qualifying disability of some kind. And one of the first questions that I get asked is like, hey, how do you protect confidentiality? Well, first off, your status of having a disability is never shared with the client at all, period. And furthermore, we do everything that we can to make sure that we safeguard that information is kept under lock and key in our office, and it is only discussed with the individual that you're working with here at Peak Performers. The second thing that I always get asked is, hey, what about accommodations, right? And accommodations take many different forms. It could be something as like, really obvious as like needing a screen reader to be able to kind of read a computer at work, or perhaps it's something a little bit more subtle, like you have carpal tunnel and you might need a vertical mouse in order to operate a computer comfortably, or perhaps it's something even a little bit more fluid than that. So let's say, for example, you suffer from mental health issues and you need to take time to be able to take mental health days or go see, a doctor in order to keep yourself well. We oftentimes will step in and provide you with the accommodation equipment that's necessary, or at least kind of help have that conversation and make sure that you are going to be set up for success in the first place, but then B, also make sure that you are, to as much as we can control as possible, going to be able to have your accommodation requests met in the workplace. So yeah, that's all that I kind of got for you guys today. Again, Myles from Peak Performers. We're very excited to see your resume, and I did include my contact information on the slides, and I'll drop it into the chat as well. I encourage any of you to reach out to me via LinkedIn or reach out to me via email, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you very much, Roger, and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Myles. I see some questions coming in the chat. We're going to get to those at the end of the panel, so hold your questions, and we're going to move forward and talk to Monty Chamberlain with the Health and Human Services, or HHSC. Take it away, Monty.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me today. Quite an honor to be invited to make this presentation today. As Jigna noted, my name is Monty Chamberlain. I am with Texas HHSC. I worked in specifically the IDD and Behavioral Health Services Division, and more specifically in our Special Projects Unit. We do a lot of different projects, and for me, myself, I do a lot of employment first focused projects. What I'm going to present to you today is several items, and I'll move fairly rapidly. I'm going to talk a little bit about the subject of employment first, the philosophy. I'm also going to touch on the HCBS rule settings changes on the horizon. I'm going to then move to talk just very briefly about family concerns when individuals set the goal for employment, individuals with disabilities. We're going to follow that with a very short video. It'll feature some 3 different individuals working in integrative settings in the community and some testimony from their families. And then I'm going to wrap up with providing you with an email address for future questions you may have, even after today, that you can jot that down and save it. It's a supported employment email box that we have. So we'll kick right off. Next slide, please. So first off, let's just talk about what is employment first. It's a term used across the nation. It's a trend. Many people still have not been introduced to this yet, but very straightforward. It is the philosophy that employment in the general workforce should be the first and preferred option for individuals with disabilities receiving assistance from a publicly funded system. So basically, this means earning a competitive wage for a given job in a regular setting, just like anyone else in the workforce. I always like to stress here, so I'm going to just kind of focus for a second on waiver services. We never know in the audience necessarily if audience members might be a waiver recipient, or if they might be receiving services from a managed care organization, et cetera. But the bottom line is this: whether someone's coming out of high school, maybe wanting to go straight to work, go to college, et cetera, when an individual and their family support system indicate that it is their desire to work in the community, that should be the first and preferred option by any support system or service provider providing those services. Far too many times over the history of the years, folks have been steered to other things. And when we talk about employment first, we're talking about real jobs, real wages, the opportunity to compete just like everyone else, and to advance through the organization. Next slide, please. So as I stated, this is a little bit of a reiteration of this, but we're talking about things such as earning benefits the same way that anyone else would in the job. And a lot of times there's a fear. I'm just going to touch on this extremely briefly, a whole different subject, but there's a fear. Sometimes a family member may say, well, what about the benefits they already receive? What about if they are receiving SSI or SSDI? Well, the fact is, you would, and even Medicaid, okay? You would have to make a tremendous amount of money to lose your Medicaid benefits. We're talking, just for round numbers, $40,000 a year, okay? That's just a round number. As far as losing the cash benefit, it's kind of very briefly a 50 cents on the dollar thing. And if you do the formulas, if you do the calculations, you will always have more money if you go to work. Always, always, always. And you have that greater independence and the ability to make choices in your life. Next slide, please. So just to touch on the goal. Okay, so first, an individual sets the goal to work in the community. Not in a segregated setting, not in a sheltered workshop. Those things are all valuable, but they typically pay sub minimum wage. We're talking about supporting a person who sets the goal to work in the community. And I want to stress again, it's not mandated. It is a goal that the person sets. And then once they set that, any type of service provider is required to support it. Now, I always like to say here, it's not a mandate, but I've talked to so many family members, they said, oh yeah, it's a mandate in this family. My son or daughter will go to work. So there's expectations within families that this occurs, but from a legislative or policy standpoint, that is not a mandate. Okay, next slide, please. So what's different about employment first? So historically, folks were steered towards sheltered workshops or work centers, for example, especially if they had more significant disabilities, even intellectual and developmental disabilities. Employment first is a movement towards allowing the opportunity for everyone to be part of their community. And I use the word of their community, to participate in civic organizations, extracurricular activities, everything that any other person would want to do. That's what employment first is about, is to open that door and allow people to be part of their community and to even become a tax-paying citizen and live a more independent life. Next slide, please. I think it was Myles who actually touched on this just a brief bit, and I loved hearing this, but the employment first assumption operates under the presumption that everyone can work. We focus on the ability of the person as opposed to their disability. What does that person bring to the table? And the fact is, some folks may require more supports than others. Yes, that's true. Some of those supports can be extreme, but when everyone in the circle adopts the philosophy that everyone can work, provided they're supported, provided they get the necessary supports that they need for their given situation, it can happen. Next slide, please. So why is this even important? Well, there's a number of reasons. It's a national movement. It is truly a national movement. The other thing is that Texas is an employment first state. This happened 8 years ago, and from legislation. And from that, HHSC, the Texas Education Agency, and what was former DARS, now Texas Workforce Commission, the unit there that was formerly DARS, have adopted the employment first policy. I have a link there that you can look at that if you desire. I'm assuming you guys will have access to this presentation after the fact if you'd like to go to that link at some point. Next slide, please. Okay, so what else this is another important thing on the horizon. The Home and Community-Based Service Rule Settings Changes, also known as HCBS. This was released in 2014. There was an initial deadline for states to come into compliance by 2019 of March. It was extended once because of COVID, and then again. So right now, the deadline is March of 2023. And states will have to have their final rules in place with rules that are approved by CMS. Next slide, please. And the focus. Okay, so I'm going to touch on a few of these. It is to give people the opportunity to seek employment in competitive and integrated settings, to take part in the community, as I said, be part of their community, and to be more in control of personal resources. And so it's all centered around greater independence in life, more community integration. Next slide, please. Okay, leading into the video. So what are families worried about? Many different things depending on the individual family, the individual themselves, other stakeholders as well. So the individual's concerns, the family's concerns, and stakeholders' concerns. But many people worry about someone might get the job and lose it. Yes, that would be sad, and it can be tragic for some, but with the right supports, that can most often be prevented. Worried about losing benefits, rather, worried about losing the income that they get from Social Security, SSI or SSDI. Families worry about someone making a mistake and going into the criminal justice system. And then, of course, the safety concerns, the vulnerability concerns about being taken advantage of. And that's basically a summary of that. So what those are valid concerns, and many families have to address that, but with the right supports put in place and with the right education at hand, many of those things, and basically all of those things can be addressed. So what I want to do, and hopefully it'll roll real smooth, is show you the video real quick, and then come back to you for just a minute with an email address, but show you a video with testimony from 3 other families around the state. There are many examples of these 3 families that you're going to hear from now.
Having a job means much more than a paycheck for persons with disabilities. It means greater satisfaction, self-confidence, and independence in their personal lives.
When people with disabilities are employed, it gives the community an opportunity to see the value of people.
Stephanie's employment is very meaningful to her and to us and to all of her peers. She's a teacher's aide. It's the preschool special ed classroom.
I help the kids. I enjoy the work that I'm doing.
Stephanie's self-esteem has grown. I think Stephanie's independence has taken off and shot through the roof.
Confidence that it has given her is tremendous. And she was not outgoing at all until she became employed.
Jackie's job is very meaningful to her. She loves getting up every day and going to work.
I work at HCBS.
Her proudest times of the week is when she comes home and she just shares a little bit what she did at work and a little bit about her customers.
She's more independent, she's more confident, she takes more initiative, both on the job and at home.
Susie works here at the Coalition of Texans with Disabilities. She handles a lot of our research and editing.
Going to turn my life around, and I'm that happy.
When you look at an employee, you don't really worry about if they have a disability or don't have a disability. What you want is a driven employee that's going to do the job, and that's where we've benefited. She's driven. Susie went to UT and graduated before the ADA. That's a huge feat.
As a parent, we always want our kids to be successful, and oftentimes that means, taking chances. As long as you can see that progress, you know she's on the right path.
We've been extremely lucky. No negatives at all from her being employed. It's all positives.
We didn't lose any benefits. Nothing's changed.
Now more than ever before, persons with disabilities can have the support of their employer, the local intellectual and developmental disability authority, local governments, as well as family and friends.
Working will give your loved one the pathway to personal growth.
Okay, and I know that I did see some questions popping up, which I know we'll address those later, but These are questions, this email box rather is for questions you may have in the future, and I'll just state it real quick, se.questions@hhsc.state.tx.us. That sounds like the old email convention, but this is still an active email box. It has not changed. This is still correct. And I wanted to kind of close on this note to say that that very short video and those 3 individuals featured, that's just one very, very minute example of tremendous stories that are around the state for other individuals working in a myriad of different settings, And when you work, yes, your income from benefits can go down, and it does decrease as you make more and more and more. And if you work in certain settings, it may eclipse what you would earn. But then again, I want to re-stress on the Medicaid specific piece, there's lots of different angles there, and you would have to make currently, and it changes each year, currently well over $40,000 a year to wipe out Medicaid first. And then if you're making that, you're likely maybe getting benefits, but then there's Medicaid buy-in, whole other array of subjects there. I want to thank you for having me today, and I'll be open for questions once we wrap up all the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monty. What a wealth of information. Next, we have a dynamic duo. We got Jordan Fogle and Amiee Kellogg from the Autism Society of Texas.
I gotta unmute myself. Hey guys, how you doing?
Hello, everyone.
Well, thank you to Amerigroup for inviting us to this event. It is so good to be here and to be working with these wonderful community partners. I'm Amiee Kellogg, Workforce Coordinator, and I'm co-presenting with Jordan Fogle, our Projects Coordinator here at the Autism Society of Texas. As an organization, it is our purpose to serve and support everyone in the autism community. And right now AST is busy. In 2021, we're branching out into our support and finding ways to connect with people and connect people to each other. Today, we want to talk to you about our pre-employment program, our adult groups, events, and ways to plug in. So you can go to the next slide. Awesome. I put a lot on that slide, didn't I? So first, we want to tell you about our Path Building Employment Training Program. We are excited to be starting a new cohort on the 28th. That's next week, October 28th. And we're accepting enrollment up until the 27th. So if you're listening to this and you're looking at the slide and you're thinking, this is something I'm interested in and I want to do, be sure and email us. I'm going to put our email contact in the chat so you will know how to get a hold of us. So this program is designed to support adults with autism as they explore pathways towards meaningful employment and sustained professional growth. So we all know that getting a job is the first step, but it's also being able to maintain that employment and transition into other jobs and other employment opportunities as we want to, right? Because we're not, we're static beings that are dynamic beings. We're not static, we're dynamic, and sometimes we want to change, right? So our cohort of participants will meet once a week over the course of 6 months. And during the 6 months, we focus on areas that you see on the slide and really work on acquiring and applying those workplace-related communication and problem-solving skills. So this program welcomes all skill and education levels, right? We understand that everyone is in a different place in their career journey. So it's going to look a little bit different for each person who's in the program. But just take a look over those different points on the slide. I think we have 9, and see if it's anything that you might be interested in. And in addition, participants will also be afforded frequent opportunities to attend Autism Society of Texas's adult social and recreation groups, which Jordan will be discussing shortly. So this program is free and is offered through a City of Austin Access Grant. So please let us know as soon as possible if you're interested, because the cohort is starting next week, and we will get you the enrollment form starting straight away. So we'll send that to you as soon as we hear from you. We do still have some openings, so please reach out to us if you think this is something you may want to participate in before those spots fill up. And I see that Jordan did put the email link in the slide, so we can go to the next one, please. Excellent, thank you. And so this leads us to Mobile Cart, which is a project we're excited about and are hoping to get off the ground. And it ties in with that employment training program as well. It's an outgrowth of our pre-employment program and is possible through our friends at Amerigroup, our founding partner. Yay, thank you, Amerigroup. So stay on the lookout for more information about our mobile cart and ways you or your loved one can participate. Also, be watching out for it as it makes its debut presentation at the Texas Autism Film Festival, which is coming up. And Jordan will let you know about it now. So be sure to make notes on your calendar because you're going to not want to miss this. Jordan?
Yes. Hello, everyone. So AUTFest, Texas Austin Film Festival, is created by the Autism Society of Texas to foster autism acceptance by amplifying the voices of autistic filmmakers and storytellers. The event showcases films that portray life with autism in an honest, responsible way. The films we show feature a diverse array of perspectives, ages, abilities, challenges, and triumphs of people living with autism. So we're actually thrilled to be hosting AUTFest Texas in 3 different cities this year, one in Dallas, one in Austin, and Houston. And we've recently made a virtual option available as well, so you can view from anywhere. So our films have been announced, nearly all of them, including our feature, titled How the Titanic Became My Lifeboat, are made by autistic filmmakers. So get 15% off when you become a member, and I'll be posting a link in the chat where you can read more about the safety guidelines and how to get registered.
Oh, and can we put it on the next slide, because the next slide actually has the info. Yeah, so it's got the graphic for the AUTFest. We don't want to miss that.
Gotcha. All right. And oh, if we could go to the next slide. Let's see. Social recreation groups. So, as the project's coordinator, this is kind of the area that I most am involved with. So all of Autism Society's adult groups, as Amiee was saying, are funded through a grant with the City of Austin. And together with the pre-employment program that Amiee was talking about, our adult support and social skills group and our adult recreation group are both sort of ideal learning environments to and from which to transfer those social and professional skills that the pre-employment program participants are practicing. So the settings are designed to prime attendees for the material covered in the pre-employment program, which in some ways kind of represents the final or culminating stage of our instructional sequence. So the groups are 18 and up and consist of folks from the pre-employment program, as well as from the broader community who come across our cross-disability page on Meetup. Our groups are built around informal group discussions and hands-on activities related to transition to adulthood, soft skills, executive functioning, self-regulation strategies, self-advocacy. The groups also function as an opportunity just to connect online, for attendees to connect with one another in their own space. So just this past week, we offered a virtual Dungeons and Dragons session in collaboration with a therapy provider called Raising the Ground, as well as just yesterday, we had a kind of a ghost story reading circle in the spirit of Halloween. So if this sounds like something you might be interested in, feel free to email me at jordan@texasautismsociety.org. I'll be posting that in the chat now as well. So there's that. Back to you, Amiee, for Autism Friendly Business. Yeah.
Yes, thank you for talking about the meetup groups are so much fun. So if you ever have a chance to join in, it's a great way to build community. And just going back to the Autism Film Festival, because we are doing it in 3 different cities this year, I would just encourage everybody, Dallas, Austin, Houston. It's so cool because this is the first year it's hitting the road like this. So please check it out. You're not going to want to miss the films. They are spectacular. So I just wanted to highlight that to make sure we covered it, because I know we blew this graphic really quick. If you guys wouldn't mind jumping to the Autism Friendly Business slide, that'd be awesome. There it is. Okay, plus that graphic looks way better than this one. So our Autism Friendly Business Initiative, and this is something where we've been just really nurturing and working on, and we're really excited about it. We call it AFB, and it was created by us here at the Autism Society of Texas is a training program for businesses committed to equity and inclusion, right? The training encourages businesses to evaluate their culture, their systems, and their workplace, and to commit to inclusion in all aspects of business operations. So our aim with autism-friendly business is creating a workplace culture that fosters a sense of belonging for customers and employees, right? And so if you or someone you know might be interested in the Autism-Friendly Business Training Program, please reach out to us. You can use that same email you would use to reach out to us about the pre-employment program. That's employment@texasautismsociety.org. And I'll tell you a little secret, if you send an email to that email address, it'll go to Jordan and myself. So either way, we'll get it. So if you have questions about the Autism Friendly Business Program, please let us know. Let's see, what else do we have on the agenda? Oh, yes, our autonomy series. Thank you for changing that slide. We launched our virtual autonomy series in the month of September. And we covered topics like dating and relationships and conflict management, which were really fantastic topics to dive into deeper. They were very robust panel-based discussions that offered a lot of insight from the autism community and professionals. And we plan on continuing our autonomy series into the new year with topics like financial literacy and self-care. So be sure to subscribe to our newsletter so you can find out more about these types of events when they come up, or you can go to our webpage at www.texasautismsociety.org and check out our calendar to see what we have going on. So be sure and check out our webpage and our calendar to see what we have. And that newsletter, it's really important to stay linked in on what we're doing. The other thing we have going on, if you can go to the next slide, I want to make sure we finish in a timely fashion here, is seminars across the spectrum. Now, this is an ongoing lecture series hosted by Autism Society of Texas that spotlights important autism-related issues and topics to help educate the general public, as well as provide support for the autism community. They've covered topics like demystifying girls and women on the spectrum, racial disparity, and there's even one coming up called Preparing Teens and Tweens for Adulthood. That's huge, right? So you won't want to miss it. You can sign up for this by going to our website and finding the event on the calendar. And also don't forget, again, sign up for the newsletter because this is how you stay in the loop for everything. And I'm going to hand it back to Jordan because he's going to close us out and talk about our online support groups and just general contact information for us.
Whoops, I was muted. So the Autism Society facilitates volunteer-run support groups for parents and caregivers across the state. We just launched a new one out in West Texas, as well as a Spanish-speaking parents and caregivers group. So if you'd like more information on whether there's a support group in your area, or if you yourself would like to start one in your area, feel free to contact us. I just posted a link in the chat where you can go in and read a little bit more about that. And finally, you can go to the next slide. Here we have our contact information. We have an advocacy arm that was heavily involved during this past legislative session. This last year, we had a policy symposium as well as some trainings around public policy. So you can go read more about that at that first link there. We have our information and referral services, which connects folks all over the state to resource providers and support groups in their area. So you can reach out to them anytime. And fundraising events, there are lots of events coming up and ways to get involved. So please follow us or check our calendar at www.texasautismsociety.org. And I think that's it.
I think that's it. Thank you, Jordan. And don't forget, if you're interested in the pre-employment training cohort, be sure and email us or shoot us an email. Starts next week. So thank you, Jordan.
Thank you, Amiee and Jordan. Awesome. That's great resources and employment opportunities. But next of all, I would like to introduce Jigna on the E4 program. So take it away, Jigna.
Yes, thank you so much. So E4 Texas, just like all of these other wonderful opportunities that our panelists have presented is just another choice to add to the table for adults looking to be immersed in the university and campus life. So it's a post-secondary opportunity for people with or without a disability over the age of 18 who have a high school diploma, are determined to find jobs and live independently. All of our students live at Dovey 2021, which is this high rise on the downtown campus. And it's a 3-semester experience. It'll start in summer, so right around July. And then we have fall and spring semester as well. And throughout the course of the year, we're talking about everything. A lot of topics that were discussed in this panel, we're touching on that as well. We're talking about disability advocacy. We're diving in deep into their career goals. We are talking about Social Security benefits and how that will impact their life. We're talking about living independently, and we're talking about healthy relationships. In addition to auditing courses at UT, if that's the next step they want to take, is being in college settings for a little longer. So during the course, students are learning about 3 different career paths that they can take. One is being in the childcare world. The other one is being a paraprofessional or TA. And the third is being a personal care attendant or PCA. And so they're supported throughout their time. This semester during fall, they're volunteering at different sites, getting a handle of what the work might look like. And then in spring, we're helping them find jobs and nail those internships and work and start making money and budgeting their finances. So there's a lot that goes on in E4 Texas. This is our 3rd year doing it. And of course, COVID threw a huge curveball at us last year, but we have persevered. We did a hybrid setting last year, and now we're back to in-person setting this year. And I know we're a little short on time, and I know people had some great questions. So I'll just make it brief and leave it at that. I will put my information in the chat box, and we just have opened up our applications. So you can find information about how to apply on our website at disabilitiesstudies.utexas.edu. There's an FAQ sheet in there too, which has more information about what might qualify you as a good candidate for the program. And I will, thanks, Anna, I see your message. I will also put everyone's information in the chat box, everyone that was on the panel. Also, there'll be a survey at the end of the Zoom meeting, if you can all take that. I will also link that in the chat box. And finally, there will be this PDF of all the slides added to the PowerPoint in the recording. So all this information will be available to you. Let's go ahead and take a look at the questions since we have some time. I will just go back to the beginning, and it looks like there was a question for Myles about having attorney positions. You already answered that in the chat, but is there anything else you would like to add to that question?
Yeah, I think that the attorney is a really good example of how our business is continuing to expand. So the majority of the attorney positions that we're currently staffing, we have about 100 attorneys working for us across the state right now, and they're mostly working as hearing officers for the Texas Workforce Commission. So it's a really good kind of entry-level point, whether you have kind of gotten your Juris Doctorate for the first time, or you want to get some public sector experience. It's a really good opportunity for that. And yeah, we have about 100 people working for us across the state, and it's a remote position as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Myles, for elaborating on that. The next question I see here is from Susan, and it is to Monty. Susan said, Monty, what are you saying about the benefits of working applies to people who get SSI, but there are different rules for people who get SSDI and Medicaid waiver benefits. Please provide more information about how people with SSDI plus Medicaid waiver can work without losing their Medicaid and Medicaid waiver benefits. I am still waiting for a response from Shamir on this question.
Hello, Ms. Bjork. Yes, I'm familiar with the dialogue you've had with Shamir, and the question posed is, I guess it's a little more complex than for this panel discussion, but what I will do is I had followed some of the dialogue Shamir was having with you, and I'll get back with her to continue to see if there was anything hanging and follow up. But just kind of a broad statement, there is a difference between SSI and SSDI, and each individual case is different. So it'd be very difficult in this short discussion to get too deep on that. I also, kind of want to stress a term I didn't use, or CWICs out in the communities, community work incentive and coordinators. That's a resource that folks may want to touch with also, as my presentation was just very broad today on employment first in general. So I know that didn't answer the question direct, but I will check with Shamir to continue to follow up on any hanging questions that were left from the dialogue that you guys have been having.
Thank you, Monty. Next, we have some questions for Autism Society. Jacqueline asked about how long do the cohorts run and what are the times and when does the next one start after this month?
Okay, that's a great question. The cohorts run for 6 months at a time. So we're going to start the next one in April. So basically this one starts on the 28th of this month. And we're going to meet on Thursday. So we meet once a week. And if you ever went to a school that had like 8A, B-Day schedule, we kind of do like, we're going to do block. So we'll meet on Thursdays for about 60 to 90 minutes, right? Which is kind of what that schedule looks like. And then we're gonna do that once a week until April, of course, with holidays. We're not going to meet on Thanksgiving, obviously, but we'll restart the cycle over again in April. So I hope that answers your question. But if you have any more specific questions about the objectives we cover, the materials we cover, please feel free to email me at the employment@texasautismsociety.org email address.
Excellent. Thank you, Amy. One more question for you all is about, is there anything for 17-year-olds with autism that want to work?
Oh, that is a great question. So it really depends on where they're at with school. So typically we would recommend somebody who's still 17, who is, I'm assuming they're still in school somewhere, but you would need to talk to your student's case manager or a campus representative for Texas Workforce Vocational Rehabilitation Services and get them linked there because there's really great programs that run through summer to help connect opportunities. So I would, there's like this summer earn and learn program and summer youth employment program, all those things. So connect with your campus-based Texas Workforce a vocational rehabilitation partner and check with them and see what's available there. And if you have any more detailed questions about that, reach out to us via email and we'll be happy to have that discussion a little bit more with you.
Absolutely. I would refer y'all to the support@texasautismsociety.org email address. I believe we do have resource lists put together for teenagers looking for work. So
yes, please reach out to us because we can certainly respond to you with that.
Thank you. We just got another question from Catherine asking about how do I find a CWIC? Monty, feel free to answer that question. I do know the CWIC for the Travis area, but maybe Catherine, if you want to ask us or let us know which county we're in, we can help you further. Monty, feel free to elaborate if you have any.
Yes, I think your statement is perfect, Ms. Patel. So Ms. Harwood, if you want to either email me direct, okay, so Travis and Harris and Jigna knows the one in Travis, we can help you with Harris. If you'll send me an, an email or to that sc.questions email box, we'll get that to you for Harris. And if you already have Jigna, the one for Travis, if you want to provide that in some fashion.
I did put that onto the chat box there. Louise Brown is with the Crockett Resource Center for Independent Living, but she does oversee the Travis County area. And let me add her email on there as well. All right. Well, I think we were able to end just right on time. If anyone has any more questions, feel free to put it in the chat box. Roger, if there's anything else you would like to add, feel free to take it away from here.
Sure, thank you. Most definitely, I love those questions. I will take those into account and bring those resources to y'all sometime later. Those are questions maybe they can be answered with with our resource partners and maybe on our next Diversify Austin, or even do a separate webinar on those topics such as SSDI waivers, the ABLE program, Medicaid, employment. I know that can be a sticky situation. And so, yes, maybe a new webinar on that, sometime in the future. So watch out for that. Those are great ideas. Just wanted to share a few things about this event. Diversify Austin has had some humble beginnings. Starting when, it started back with the city of Austin when they used to have their disability mentoring program. And so we used to partner with them, and then, that one day just ceased. And so I had reached out one time to the Autism Society of Texas and the following year and said, hey, we need to continue this. And so we did more of a disability mentoring day celebration event. And so just to keep the spirit going, because there was a lot of our community partners that was involved with the Disability Mentoring Day with the city of Austin. They were really looking forward to it. And then later on, we reached out to Texas Center for Disability Studies, the E4 program. And we had our first, Diversify Austin event, and it was a live event. And so very humble beginnings with this, with this Diversify Austin, job fair and resource event. So, but fast forward today, we've invited our CBO partners. These are the orgs that we sponsor and support, throughout the years, and this is the work that we do in the community, not just here in Austin, but all throughout the state of Texas, in other metropolitan areas and even in rural areas as well. So, I just want to thank them for being our partners here and doing this event. We'd like to thank the Autism Society of Texas. We've seen them grow as well. The Center for Disability Studies, Peak Performers, and of course, Texas Health and Human Services Commission. Feel free to, reach out to us. I believe our contact information is there. We just want to thank everyone, participating on this event, and hopefully, we'll see you next year for a bigger event and a live in-person event. And, we want to go bigger. Anything else you want to add, Jigna?
That sounds great. I'm sorry if we missed any questions. Feel free to add them in again if I had accidentally skipped them, since we have a couple more minutes.
Jigna, I think I saw one about court reporting somewhere. Did we get to that one?
I don't think so. If you see it, feel free, Amiee, to read it out and address it.
I think it was addressed to Myles about a job court reporting. Myles, do you know if that's something that is?
For court reporting, yeah. At the moment, I don't think that there is currently a court reporting position that's open, but that could change tomorrow. And honestly, a lot of those skills that you would get kind of being a court reporter may translate to other positions if you are flexible too. So at the very least, I'd encourage you to submit your resume online. You can either email to me or you can submit it online by joining our talent pool. And that way we can keep you in mind for that role.
Awesome. Like I said, reach out if you have any other questions, reach out to us. Our contacts are there. These are all great questions. And I think, you know, there is a lot of misinformation out there in the community, especially when it comes to Medicaid and employment and different types of Medicaid, of course, and Social Security, you know, the administration, you know, those are very confusing to me even today. I think my work is cut out, and maybe you'll see a future webinar just on that specific topic, you know, and so I'll get to work and start getting something going, and we'll, you know, we'll build it. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes back, and again, thank you for attending the Diversify Austin job fair and resource fair. We'll see you next year. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.